What's up, guys? Nadia is 8.5 weeks out. We've been doing these weekly videos for you to kind of give a recap on how the week went, where she's at with her prep, and then kind of give some bits of information that you guys can really grab onto in terms of application of the prep process in general, whether you are wanting to learn from Nadia, whether you're wanting to kind of learn her, her approach, that way you can apply it to yourself, and really the bigger overall variables there. So she's 8.5 weeks out. We're going to get into what happened this week. I really want Nadia to start driving these videos with you guys, so that way you guys can continue to learn about her. And then I'm going to be kind of just as I am in a coach in a supporting role, so I'll kind of fill in where I need to and give my assessment of where we're at. But she's going to go over the nuts and bolts of this week, and then we'll go from there.
I want to address that. I think my favorite part of my contest preps and how I think that everyone can relate to them so well is because I'm not like a push button client. I have a lot of variables like the waking up early that we discussed, the stress and overtraining, the inflammation, a lot of things that I think a lot of other people can relate to, that we can pull bits and pieces from what I learned during my contest prep, what Matt has to do and utilize during my contest prep, that can be applied to so many people. It's not just like, here's the diet, here's your cardio, and I coast all the way through with no issues. I think that's probably one of my favorite things, is that I can take so much from each contest prep that I go to and just use that knowledge and apply it towards my clients. Matt obviously applies that towards his, and just information in general for you guys to learn from. So back to...
Really quick. Something that she said that's just so crucial, especially for you girls, is like the inflammation variable for y'all is so much more of a variable that needs to be monitored. It doesn't really happen necessarily to the same extent at all with guys. So when you're monitoring a girl's prep, or you might be monitoring your own prep as a female, that's something that you really need to take into account. Like if everything seems to be going right and your adherence has been perfect and your weight starts to jump up, you need to look at how much output you're putting on a daily basis, whether that's workouts, whether that's cardio. As we just started, I'm actually having a conversation with Ivana right now where basically she's ready for her show. And the biggest thing that we need to do going into the show is just kind of land the plane as effectively as we can in terms of navigating that inflammation. So that's a great point, because you have to pay attention to that, because if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to miss the mark, because you might overly then push the diet thinking that it's fat when really it's just inflammation and water. And for that water to clear, that's going to require a more restful environment and not an increased work environment.
Mm-hmm. And it could be even just stress.
Sure.
In my case, stress plays another big part in fluctuations and inflammation and stuff like that. So anyways, we're 8.5 weeks out now. Last time I checked in with you guys last week, we talked about some of the high day manipulations we made. We talked about cardio, and this week I actually dipped down into 133 range, within that range there, and I checked in on Tuesday. We updated you guys, or Monday, I updated you guys then, and then we recorded Tuesday. I had a great week, trained hard. Recovery was, well, I didn't feel too inflamed. I completed one HIIT session that week, and then on Thursday when I checked in, Matt decided to pull that HIIT session, take the HIIT cardio out completely, and we were doing steady state cardio. We added the post-training cardio in just 20 minutes for this week, or last week. And then going into the weekend, we reduced cardio to just 20 minutes in the morning, Friday through Sunday. And then we also gave me 2 consecutive high days on Friday and Saturday, just to kind of let myself reboot and catch up, and probably just have like a little bit of a stress relief, and have some room to just recover and repair, and extra food to just get me kind of through my days. And as we discussed, I think it was either the last shoot of the week, the one before, that we did, by the end of the week, I'm pretty toast.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty fatigued, and I feel heavy and just tired and drained, and I'm probably not the only one who's like that, but having that break of cardio and having that increase in food, I feel like really helps me. Now going into this week, my sleep schedule is great. I am really on top of that. I try and be. And my weight, I've been sitting around like 135, like within 135, 136 consecutively through the weekend and up until today. Cardio is back to its normal 55 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes post-training. I'm doing my base days, which are about like 60 to 70 grams of carbs, 60 to 70 grams of carbs, and moderate fat intake, like 30 grams, and protein is a little bit over a gram per pound of body weight. probably like 140, 145, I think, right now.
All right, so just to kind of give you guys my insight into her weekend, we kind of had another like monumental day on Saturday. But so what I just talked about inflammation, so everything I did in terms of changes this week was to improve the inflammation environment. That's why I pulled the HIIT out. Also, something that has happened now over the past few weeks is I've actually been able to train with Nadia in person, and I'm able to see her output, which as a coach, that's one of the hardest parts of my job, is not being able to see my athletes train. So to know like what level of exertion they're really putting themselves through. Nadia has, and this is kind of true with girls in general, like girls that really train hard, they really have an ability, especially on their lower body, to really extend sets like far. I mean, like with Nadia this week on the leg press, I think she did like an additional 4 to 5 reps past where I thought she was at failure, all on her own. So when I can gauge those things in person, then it really kind of tells me like where her output's at with training, which to me is most important, and then where we need to pull back in the other variables. So I immediately pulled back on the HIIT. I didn't reduce the cardio the same day that I pulled back on the HIIT, right?
No, you pulled the HIIT. So on Thursday, I completed my HIIT session Wednesday evening.
Right.
And then my weight was up the next morning.
Right.
Knowing me, that's because of the inflammation induced by the HIIT training. Even though it's just the 12 minutes, it's 12 minutes that I'm going all out and giving my 110%. And it's hard if you're doing it right. 12 minutes is a hard 12 minutes. It's not something you can just blow past and breeze through because it's a short amount of time. It's something that requires all your effort, something that takes all my effort, and I have to plan my days accordingly so that the days I would perform my HIIT would be a day that I felt well. I felt like I could give it my all. If it was after a leg session and I was feeling really taxed, I wouldn't do it that day. I would save it for a day that I was fresher. But I was up in weight the next morning, so you pulled it. And then I think later that day you had adjusted my cardio training, or not my training, my food, rather, through the weekend.
Right. So she woke up on, I think it was either Friday or Saturday morning, and her weight was, I think it was 0.4 away from where she was last Friday. Mm-hmm. But I could visually see like she's continuing to get better and better and better.
So what 0.4 less.
Yeah, right. So what I wanted her to do is I just asked her to put pictures side by side, and hopefully she'll share these at some point, maybe in this video, but where she was at 3 weeks ago versus where she was at today. And really that Saturday to Saturday weigh-in, her weight hasn't changed at all, but the look is drastically different. You know, so it's like finding those checkpoints for any athlete, even myself, where you can, within a situational experience, really build confidence. And that's why progress pictures are so crucial. Where you take your progress pictures, how you take them, the lighting. Like if you can really set all those variables to be constant, mm-hmm. You're going to know exactly what's going on in the prep. So that's why I did that, because it was like just a cosign to also to her and her confidence as well as my own, that like, okay, like weight at this point to me is irrelevant, you know, because the look continues to improve. She's doing so good. So it's more so about like navigating the other variables within prep. We know fat loss is occurring. It's not really showing on the scale, but we know it's occurring. So then within that, like how are we managing her recovery to make sure that her body's not going to be resistant to fat loss throughout the process? Because as I've talked about, and this is so important for you girls, so I'm gonna say it every time, like y'all were not created to do this. Y'all were created to birth children, and I'm not putting you in a category, but what I'm saying is like your body environment is going to be resistant to fat loss unless you coax it into fat loss over time. So you might have been somebody that the first time you dieted, like it seemed like everything worked, and that's because your body wasn't resistant to that change. But your body doesn't want to go there. So as a female athlete, you have to navigate things with increasing food, with decreasing cardio, with finding that balance of continuing to allow your body to trust you to make the changes that we want to get the look that we want. So that really, ultimately, that's what this whole process is about to me, both male and female, but like you really have to pay close attention to these details as a female to make sure that you're getting to where you want to go. So from my perspective, where we're at right now, like I honestly couldn't be happier. I think she's ahead. Sorry guys, we're in an office, but she's ahead.
Jen, can I call you back? Checks, yes. No problem.
She also wears multiple hats. And yeah, we're in a good spot. So, I mean, that really ultimately is kind of the update for this week. I don't know if we're always going to be able to share like a drastic amount with you guys, but honestly, if your prep is going in the direction that it should, you shouldn't have that much to talk about on a weekly basis. But what I think is important for those of you guys that really want to watch this full sequence is like there's a little bit in every video that's going to lead into the next, and we just want to be able to connect all the dots for you. So that's 8.5 weeks out. We're also going to do a Q&A right now, so stay tuned for that video where we want to take